The State Library in Utah actually began with the passage of the Library Services Act by Congress in 1956. And the Library Services Act had as its emphasis bringing library services to people in rural areas. Utah was the last state in the nation to get a state library, and I think if the Library Services Act had not passed, we might still not have one.
The reputation of the Utah State Library has always been very positive. The two previous state librarians both represented Utah very well. I was very active in a regional association, the Mountain Plains Library Association, and I remember meeting Russell Davis, who was the very first state librarian.
The state library, once he'd accepted the job, he felt like his baby. This was a challenge.
His motto was service to the patron. I mean, it didn't matter if the patron was an individual or a library. His motto was service, and this is wonderful service.
We started as a little entity that was in a bedroom in the governor's mansion.
Governor Clyde was not living there, and so they had made it into office space for the history department. Well, in talking to Russ Mortensen, there was a third floor bedroom that wasn't being used. And so he said to Russell, you can set up the state library in the third floor bedroom if you want to. And so he accepted that.
And that was the beginning. It was the embryonic stage of the state library. And Russell and his staff was wonderful people, and they did a lot of great services.
Then we went to the carriage house at the governor's mansion.
Each one of the horse stalls was made into an office. And other than it, by the time they got it finished, it was almost too small to hold the book collection and everything. It worked well for several years.
And then we went to a warehouse facility.
The State Library, I believe, moved into that building in 1967, into just part of that area. But as time went on and the State Library grew, we'd take over a little more space here, a little more space there. We'd get a few offices over in this building across the street, and we just grew and grew. And it was finally to the point that we were out of space.
And from that warehouse, there was enough commitment and enough belief in services from the Utah State Library to build a brand new building.
The move from the old building to this building was a challenge. Now, back when I worked for Russell, one of the things we specialized in was moving libraries. Russell was a genius at organizing human chains, so I wasn't worried about moving the State Library's general collection. What we were really worried about was moving the library for the blind, but we managed to get it moved. So the State Library began with an emphasis on giving services to rural areas, and given Utah's huge geographic distances and scattered population, Bookmobile was a logical fit, and the State Library really began with Bookmobile service.
And that Bookmobile service covers a large portion of the state. Geographically, small portion of the state population-wise, but because of the population being so diffuse and so spread out, there really is a necessity for bookmobiles, because building standalone facilities to serve rural areas oftentimes isn't economically feasible.
1976, they took a bookmobile on tour of the state that had all kinds of histories, a copy of the Constitution, all of those wonderful things from 1776, and they toured the whole state with that bookmobile. And of course, mostly the bookmobile stops were at schools, and so the children were so thrilled with all of this in one place.
The operation of the Utah State Library is very impressive. The fact that we have services for the blind and physically handicapped that are par excellence. We really have the very best service in the entire country, in my personal opinion, for those people who are blind or disabled and live in the state of Utah. They're offered phenomenal service.
In 1972, we started the first Braille Center ever in the United States. We took on about 13 states around us. Small states were having trouble. They only had a few people to serve. Braille takes up a lot of room, and so we started the first Braille Center in the United States.
When I first started at the library, the cassette player was just coming in. And so, you know, before that it was the old record player. And so basically my career started with the cassette player, and now we're going into the new digital talking book machine and digital recording. So it's quite a change.
We couldn't get enough people to read the books that needed to be recorded, especially when we took on the dyslexic people, because we had a lot more patrons that needed. We're going to college, you need to have books recorded and so forth. And so we went to state prison, and they bought the idea real big, and of course the governor at that time liked it well. It was a great atmosphere. It was fun. It was fun to work here. It was exciting. We were always on the growing fringes of technology, and everything that came up computer-wise we bought and adapted. The state library has been pretty high-tech.
Now the people are working on like websites. The Pioneer website is, I think, one of the best that you're going to see, and I think it's one of the best nationwide.
And Pioneer is an online resource that's available to every person throughout the state of Utah, where they can borrow materials or back online. They don't have to go to their library. They actually just sit down at their computer, look up information on whatever topic they may want. It comes back to their computer and they're able to use it. Well, I think 50 years of the Utah State Library certainly show a lot of development. I'm very pleased that the Utah State Library is now a big part of the Utah state government. We are part of a department and part of a particular piece of government that deals with community and culture. I think that's important for where we are right now.
There was no library for state government employees or the legislature, and no library development agency that went out and worked with libraries in the state. So the library community in Utah had long wanted to have a state library.
One of the most important things that we're doing now is aligning a professional consultant with every small to medium-sized and large public library throughout the state. Our libraries in Utah really shine nationally, and I like to think that one of the reasons and one of the things that helps with that is the Utah State Library.
Working for state libraries is always challenging. There is always something changing. There's always something fascinating. There is always something to learn.
Just a lot of growth, and I think that's because from Russell on down, we've had some great state librarians here.
I just think it's been a great place to work, and it's been wonderful to watch the evolution of the state library and watch it be able to grow and develop and meet the needs of the patrons of the state of Utah.
There are people here in the state library with expertise in all different areas of library service. Those experts are available and ready to help others in Utah deliver the best possible library service, and that's the bottom line, is helping the patrons in Utah get what they need when they go into a library, no matter what kind of library that is.
Many very talented and capable people work for the state library, and boy, my hat's off to them.